couldn't afford to go and buy a truckload. And if they needed a bar, so it didn't make sense to ship it. And so he would just go down and pick it up. And I was looking at that, and they were like, yeah, but it takes us about 7 heats from round to rectangle just to start the forging process. And I was like, all right, well, the biggest impact I'm going to have on this process is we have to find you flat bar. So we went out and started looking, and a company that we work with regularly had 1x3 1060. I was like, fantastic, no problem. And our steel supplier, our rep, called me and said, hey, I've got 3 sheets of this material. We'll rip it down. It'll give you, I think it was like 3,300 pounds of this. But we don't have anyone that will make it for us anymore. So that'll be it. And it's like, all right, back to square one. So we went through trying to find that. We really struggled to find 1 inch thick, period, 1 inch flat bar, right? Because if it started at 4 inch, we could work with it, but we wanted 1x3 flat 1045 is what we kind of landed on. And so that steel supplier could only provide it to us in round or plate. And so at this point, what I'm doing...
But they couldn't cut it down.
They don't have the process to cut it down. So we're bringing the plate in and plasma cutting full 5x10 sheets into axe bolts.
I just ordered, when I did that job for it's a real big tong, they're about 10-foot long tongs for Campbell Jacobs over in Illinois.
Okay.
I needed some 1.25 square.
Yeah.
4140.
Yeah.
And they ripped it out of a sheet.
Yeah. For whatever reason, and I'm not really sure why, maybe we did that out of cost. Because like our H13 is plate, and they do rip it. And I'd love to see what they rip it with. Because I've seen...
I'll bet it's not a skill.
No. The way that I've seen it done in the past is they use a Trainjager brand saw. And it's like and maybe you've seen these before. It basically looks like a table saw, but the blade is about 36 inches in diameter, and the blade moves. Okay, so they put that plate up on the bed of the saw, and they've got these big hydraulic fingers that come down, and then the blade goes right between the fingers.
Like a radial arm saw. Then.
Yeah, basically an upside down radial arm saw. But you're talking about 50 horsepower motor on that saw.
I mean, they had a cold saw down Fountaintown years ago, and it had big teeth on it.
Oh, yeah. 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 That's some really wild stuff. Especially, you see a picture of it, and you're like, man, that's interesting. And then you walk up to it, and it's like, oh, this is the size of like a billiard table, Yeah. It's like, good Lord, I don't want to be anywhere near this when you turn it on. I had a thing for hacksaws, power hacksaws for a while. I still have it. But I bought one. I found I can't remember the name of it. It was a Russian Casto. It was a Casto saw, which is big saw manufacturer still. But it was a 1968, I think it was, and it was all hydraulic, and it was self-actuating, so you'd put your bar in, set your length, and then it had the 2 hydraulic vices that would clamp and release and move and clamp and, just sit there and do that until you're done. And that used a 1.5 inch by... probably 3/16 is a big curve. That ended up being the issue with it. You turn so much of your steel into dust. But it was just hacksaw. And so I was really interested in it. I was looking around, and I found another one for sale up in Cleveland. And it is a 20 horsepower. And the blade is 3 feet long. And it has 1/4 inch wide replaceable teeth inserts on the hacksaw.
Wow.
So the actual hacksaw blade was about 3/8 wide. So you're turning that, but they were showing it, and they were using it for processing forged, like 24 inch diameter rounds and sawing it up because making billets. Yep. Prepping for forging. I really wanted to buy it just as just freaking look at it. I have no use for that thing. Making like Damascus powder or something out of the filings, but anyway, I get really enthusiastic about seeing that how the industrial scale, especially through like 1920s and 30s, and like how they thought about things so mechanically.
Oh, yeah.
It's
And
just
made it work.
fascinating.
And made it work.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were much of a blacksmith shop at that point.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, you look at all the
big hammers and built a big. All the big hammers are is a steam engine.
Right.
know.
Right. It's just a simple steam engine.
Yeah.
Really. You're just sending the piston out of the head. All right. Are you ready for us? You want me to do my intro? See, Evan, this is why it's so nice to just have a soft open. Because we can just talk about hacksaws and forging hammers and,
Why don't you just go ahead and
okay, I'll do it.
do it, and we'll just keep rolling.
Okay. Are you going to do the intro music?
I'll put it in at the beginning later.
You're going to put it in later.
Yeah.
All right. So I just look at the camera.
Yeah.
Is your last name Fehrenbach?
That's my last name.
Okay. I was pronouncing it right.
Yeah.
I hate getting in front of somebody and talking to a camera right in front of them and just butcher the name.
I've heard it all different ways.
I'm sure. Are you ready, Evan?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, welcome to the Coalcast. I'm Nathan Brandt. Today we have the incredible, the wonderful Kurt Fehrenbach on our show. I am super excited to talk about a man whose work experience in the forging industry predates me by about probably 2x. So the number of incredible things that you've done in your life and put your hand to the plow and actually like made industrial forgings and participated in like large scale stuff. I'm really excited to delve in and hear a little bit about all the amazing things you've been able to do in your life. So really happy to have you on the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here. It's quite an honor to be over here doing this.
Well, I know when I lived in Cicero, just south of you in Atlanta, and I would drive past your shop all the time, and somebody, I don't know, maybe it was Andy, told me, oh, yeah, Kurt's got like a 600-pound steam hammer in there and all kinds of big mechanical hammers. And I was so nervous to come and meet you. I was like, man, I'm nobody. Like, he's not gonna. And come to find out, that's your favorite. Is getting people that don't know what they're doing yet.
I'm no different than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, so Kurt, tell me, how did you get into forging in the first place? Let's start there.
It goes way back.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been playing with metal for 53 years.
That's awesome.
And I started out as a kid, and my grandfather at that time, I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and my grandfather at that time owned Indianapolis Drop Forge.
Okay.
With a couple other partners.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of big drop hammers.
Yeah.
And Dad was a metallurgist there.
Okay.
So on the weekends, Dad would take me to work with him.
Yeah.
And then while he was doing his work, put me in a blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
And the blacksmith would watch over me. I was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing a bang and a flash and the steam and the long line of hammers and trim presses. And it was a big building.
Yeah.
After that, the Vietnam War was over, and they sold out and to a guy who basically went in there and depleted the company, and that's where Fountaintown came from.
Okay.
Fountaintown Forge.
So was that like some of the equipment and the people moved over into?
They moved over to Fountaintown.
Okay.
Fountaintown was a gas maintenance building.
Okay.
And they bought the flat die shop out. All the drop hammers got sold other places.
Yeah.
So Fountaintown ended up with an open die forging.
Yeah.
And it's still going today.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just there a couple months back talking with Norbert, who's taken over the company and really passionate about bringing American manufacturing back. So that was...
I sent them a Christmas card this year.
Did you?
It was one my grandpa gave out in the 50s.
Seriously?
Has Santa Claus at an anvil.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's awesome.
So it had the Indianapolis Drop Forge logo on it, and
that's amazing.
I sent that to him.
I found this picture of the Drop Forge employees from 1926.
Wow. So how long was that company in business?
1890.
1890. Wow.
And before that, the building was a brewery.
Okay. Wow. What kind of stuff were they doing at that time? Like what kind of forging? What industries were they serving?
Automotive.
Okay.
Aircraft.
Yeah. Doing like crankshafts and forged axles.
I've got a scalpel they even made.
Oh, really?
I mean, they made surgical instruments too.
Oh, that's wild.
Well, I should have brought that pamphlet from the drop forge. It had a list of all the hammers and trim presses and board drop hammers, steam drop and open die forging. And
yeah. So what?
List.
That was your father.
My father's
dad. So your father's dad. Okay. So then what? After the sale and moving over to Fountain Town, did you guys stay a part of that company? And
no, Dad went into heat treating business.
Okay.
But I know I was talking to Evan earlier today. I said, as a scout in Boy Scouts, we went over to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, camped out.
Okay.
And Dad went along, and we went to the museum, and Dad said, well, the drop forge made that part, and made that part, and made that part, and made that part.
My gosh.
I mean, pretty amazing.
Oh, it's incredible.
And like I said, they did work for Henry Ford.
Okay.
And when they made parts for Henry Ford, it had to be in a certain size box.
Oh, really?
As they sent crankshafts or whatever, or connecting rods.
Yeah.
It had to be in a certain size box of a certain kind of wood.
Yep.
And Henry Ford would take those boxes apart and make the floorboards for the cars. and all the scrap that came off that wood.
Yeah.
They started Kingsford charcoal, which is still around today.
Oh yeah.
And that's had all that got going.
Yeah.
No waste,
No waste.
I mean, you look at America now, we have a lot of waste.
We have a lot of waste. Yeah, we're mostly waste, unfortunately. Yeah. So when you were growing up in the forge and you're looking around at these huge hammers, I mean,
I was just intrigued,
Well, yeah. How did that skew you once you became of age and started looking for a job? What?
Well, when I was 10, my mom got a job at Conner Prairie.
Okay.
She took a class out there for weaving and spinning and whatnot, and they needed guides, so they hired her.
Okay.
She's not going to leave a 10-year-old home alone to terrorize a house and destroy everything. So she made a little outfit, and I went out there with her.
Yeah.
And this was before the blacksmithing was at Conner Prairie.
Okay.
One weekend, there was a guy named Jim Rubley who set up a coal forge in front of the Conner house.
Yeah.
And I turned the crank for him.
Yeah.
And I was hooked.
Yeah. That would be 10 years old.
At 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he let me make a little leather awl and, pound a piece of 1/4 inch round into a sharp point.
Yeah.
And I was hooked. And that year for Christmas, I got a 35-pound anvil, a rivet forge, and 2 pair of tongs and a hammer.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest is history.
So then, I mean, did you ever do anything else? Have you blacksmithed? I mean, have you forged? And because, I mean, I've heard stories of you like forging some titanium for golf.
Yeah, we did that
club
at the shop,
manufacturers.
And that was to another forging shop that we forged at for.
Okay.
They'd send us, 3-inch titanium. We forged it down to 1-inch round, and then they extrude the titanium out to make we're just converting material, basically.
Right. From big to small.
Yeah.
So along the way...
And we forged a lot, parts for the Abram helicopter, the Black Hawk up there. Just prototype parts for a company. And then they take it from there and make drop forging dies and produce them,
My gosh. So what?
Well, I've never advertised it.
Right.
Word of mouth.
They knew you were there.
Boom, here you go.
Was that because of Fountain Town and all of the history they knew your family?
Fountain Town.
Yeah.
And then the work I've done in the steel mills up in Gary and Chicago and all that, that was through Clifton. I worked with him for those years.
So tell me about that. Tell me all about that. I want all the details. Start at the beginning.
Once upon a time. Now, I was probably about 16 or 17 when I met Clifton and Joanne. They came down to a hammer in there in Mark Amick's house up there in Elwood. I met him there, and we became friends and all. And at that point, I had a 50-pound little giant power hammer.
Okay.
Because I was sharpening about 1,000 jackhammer bits a week.
Oh, my gosh.
And because they needed a blacksmith, back in the day, bridge crews and construction companies.
Oh, yeah.
Tool rentals and all that.
Yeah.
And, of course, a lot of it's gone by the wayside because of technology and people don't work like that anymore.
Right.
So if they need a new bridge, they're just going to tear it out and build a new one.
Right.
So a lot of that's gone away. We still do a little bit, not much.
Yeah.
But anyway, I met Clifton, had that 50-pound, and I bought a 100-pounder hammer.
Yeah.
And that came out of a blacksmith shop in Indianapolis, down in Beach Grove.
Okay.
There used to be a shop down there, Waterman's. And I got running with that and running back and forth to Gary and working with Clifton so I could learn more and more and more. This blacksmithing stuff is sort of like dope. I mean, I'm not a dope head or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if I was, it's blacksmithing stuff. You make something, and you get the satisfaction off of it, and then you got to make something else.
Right.
Something a little better.
Right.
So, I mean, as a kid, 16, 17, your friends say, what are you doing this week? I'm going to Gary. They look at you funny. Well, I was going up there to learn blacksmithing from Clifton.
Right.
And Clifton had jobs. He was getting out of steel mills.
Okay.
And I was doing a lot of work with him on that, learning how to forge that and helping him do it. Make tongs.
Okay.
We made a lot of ladle car brake keys.
Okay.
Different shapes.
Yeah.
Big forks. Ladles for test ladles and stuff they needed.
Yeah.
Clamps and all kinds of crap.
What kind of shop was he? Was that his shop or was
that
he?
Was at his shop.
That was at his shop. And what kind of equipment was he running?
He had a 100-pound hammer and a 250-pound Murray. Both of them were Murrays.
Okay.
And this is a 2-car garage.
Right.
When they closed the blacksmith shop in the mill, they gave the blacksmiths the equipment.
Okay.
That they just moved out.
Right.
And a steam hammer that's in my shop came out of the shop Clifton worked in the mill.
Okay.
It sat in a hog lot for about 15 years. And because Clifton gave it to some steam club up there.
Yeah.
And they never did anything with it.
Yeah.
So I ended up with it.
Yeah.
And moved it down and set it up.
Yeah. They probably didn't even know where to start with it.
Well, you got to dig a hole.
Yeah. So you're 17. And at that time, were you living in Indianapolis? In Carmel. Okay. Yeah. So, and you were driving up to Gary. That's got to be like a 3-hour drive?
3 or 4 hour drive.
So every weekend you're going up
Yeah.
And just absorbing everything that you can from Clifton.
Yeah. Became part of our family, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
At that time, Howard T-Rock was still alive, which was Clifton's helper.
Okay.
And Meadland worked in a blacksmith shop with Clifton on midnights.
Okay.
They were still alive.
Yeah.
Great people. And I mean, we all just got along great together and
so he
forged metal.
He had a 2-car garage set up as the forging shop. So the mill closed down the internal blacksmith shop.
Right.
But they still had work. They were funneling that over because they knew.
In fact, they closed the blacksmith shop 4 times.
Really? Because they realized they had such a need.
They had such a need for it.
Yeah.
They would just move it and hide it. And move it over here and hide it. Move it over here and hide it. Then finally they said, get it out.
Get it out of here. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, because, numbers.
Yeah. Just a drain, right? It's just additional overhead.
They thought it was a drain, but they didn't realize, the people who were figuring those numbers didn't realize what they actually did.
Yeah. Yeah. The value they were bringing to the process. Obviously, because if they were moving
because once it's gone, it's gone.
Where do you go? What do you do when it's, that's the whole
they thought they could get it from the outside, and guess what? It's not out there.
Yeah. Right. Because all the shops were closing them.
Yeah.
There is no, and there, so you have Clifton Ralph with his little shop pumping out industrial forgings for the industry. Obviously Clifton's known as kind of the guy, right?
Right, but he learned from somebody.
Oh, of course.
And you figure back in the early part of the 1900s, all these people were coming out of Europe, out of the blacksmith shops to get a better life in this country.
Yeah.
And they were going to work in those steel mills.
Right.
And they brought all the generations of work from there to here.
Right.
And the knowledge and how to do things, how to make the tooling, how to make metal move.
Yep.
And I am so thankful that I stepped in and learned that.
Right.
From the best.
Right. Right.
When those guys got done forging something, it looked like it was a machine made on a mill.
Right. What was that?
Sorry, I found a video of Clifton.
Oh.
And I thought I turned it down, but
so the control, when I see industrial forgings now, they're done often in a manipulator. There's a little guy in a control room controlling the forgings, and the finesse and the knowledge of that system, I don't think it even exists at this point. If it does, it doesn't exist as
It's still done.
Yeah.
But it's just not, there's not much of it.
Right.
Not many guys left.
How many shops do you know of? I mean, in Indiana, Fountain Town's the only one that I know of. Well, I think
But
Portland,
they don't get in a lot of the different shapes.
No.
I mean, they make a lot of shafts and bushings and gear blanks and single hub, double hubs.
Yeah. When we were there, they had this specialty alloy sitting on the floor that he was like, yeah, you can't take any pictures of that. You can't take any pictures. You know what? Just don't take any pictures. But he said, basically, all we're doing is taking this, and I think it was some kind of like Inconel alloy or something like, and they're forging a 5, maybe 10-pound billet under a 3,000-pound hammer, and I'm watching them sitting there forging it, and it's not moving hardly. I mean,
we forged some mean stuff down there.
Oh,
I worked down Fountain Town for a while.
Okay.
When I bought my steam hammer, I said, I need some experience if I'm going to set this up.
Because you had only worked on the 250. That was the biggest hammer you worked on.
100-pound at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
And I went to Fountain Town, went from a 100-pound hammer to a 3,800-pound hammer. You talk about the first hit, I said, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
I can't run, though.
Yeah, right.
I need to learn this.
Yeah.
So
so were you driving, or were you the guy?
I was out front.
Okay. What's that position called? Because hammer drivers run in the sticks, right?
Blacksmith
Okay.
And helpers.
Yeah.
We had a 6-man crew.
Okay.
And there's a constant rotation.
Got it.
One guy was always off for a 15-minute break, but the hammer never stopped running.
Okay. Probably couldn't. I mean,
well, they could. They didn't want us to leave, go to lunch. We wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
But we'd set our lunch up on top of the boiler or on top of the furnace, and then you go over and eat a can of soup or whatever, and then go back to work.
What's the biggest forging you were a part of?
Probably 2,000 pounds. A pair of tongs.
A 2,000-pound pair of tongs.
No, a 2,000-pound piece in
a pair of tongs. Got it. Do you know what the forging was?
I forged a V-block.
Oh, really?
We had to make some armor plate for a helicopter, and it was 4-inch thick.
Yeah.
And
they needed a V-block to form the material in?
Get that square shoulder.
Yeah.
And get that bend. There's pictures of it at my shop when we were doing that.
Yeah, we'll definitely be coming and doing a walkthrough. I mean, this is the foundation of everything. America was an agrarian society, a bunch of farmers that had a can-do attitude. We
went to war. We had to have this.
Yeah.
And it's no different like a Civil War. I mean, you had blacksmiths making swords and making guns and making this and making that. You had armories making stuff, and everybody went to work.
Right. Right. Well, and you had
we got forced into building up an industrial power.
Yeah.
With World War I and World War II.
Right. Well, and
real quick,
you had all this, like you said, you had all this immigrated knowledge where people were bringing their family heritage of some specialized, whatever they were good and trained at making.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all getting brought here. The best of the best were coming here. And
we're the melting pot.
Right. And bringing all of that together. And then you get World War II, where we essentially won because we built more stuff. We had more bombs, more bullets, more tanks, more guns. It's Logan was telling me a stat that like they can measure when they're on a small scale when there's a battle in warfare. Basically, they said the side that shoots more bullets wins every time. And it's like
that's basically what happened.
Right. We outworked
it, and you think about it.
Yeah. We outworked them.
They ran out of bullets and gas.
Right.
Right.
So you're forging this 2,000-pound V-block. You're forging, armor plating for. So the shops that you're working in are making everything.
When I worked down IBC down in Franklin, we forged some pretty big stuff down there under press, but it was with a manipulator. But as far as tongs go, that was the biggest piece I had in tongs.
Yeah. So this whole thing, this whole time though, you're passionate. You're just like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm here to do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think that's like a generational something that gets stuck in your gut and you're just like, this is what I'm on the earth to do?
I guess you're right. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I never get bored with it. You
No.
know, it's just a passion just to see the inside of hot metal, see the
Yeah.
soul of it, you know,
Yeah.
and see what it can turn into.
Yeah.
You know, and the challenge of it is a big thing, you know.
Yeah.
Most people go to work and do the same thing day after day after day. There's no challenge, it's boring.
Yeah.
Every day we go to work, we have to think,
Yeah.
you know, and how can we make this better,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And I come from generation after generation of people doing this,
Right. Right.
you know. What else would I do?
Nothing of significance to that voice inside of you that's saying, no, this is it. You know, this is the thing. And I think,
You know, Grandpa left enough money for me and my sister to go to school.
yeah.
I went 2 years, and I said, and I called Mom and Dad. I said, you know, what the hell am I here for?
Right.
I said, the buildings are great. The sky is great. The squirrels are great. Everything's great here. I said, I hate this place. And I've changed majors 5 times
Yeah.
because there's nothing here I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be a blacksmith.
Yeah.
They came up the next day and picked me up and said, okay, let's go home.
Wow. So I mean, especially with your family's heritage in this trade, right? I mean, I love that they bought you the anvil and the forge and the tong, and it seems like they were like, yeah, you're right. You are supposed to be a blacksmith.
Yeah, I mean, that was before I went to college, you know.
Yeah, right.
And I bought basically every piece of equipment after that, you know, with the money I made off that little forge and all that.
Yeah.
My first power tool was a chop saw.
Yeah.
And you know what was before that, don't you? A hacksaw. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You do what you have to do.
So when you're getting this work when you're 17, you said you were doing like 1,000 jackhammer resharpening.
Yeah.
How were you getting that? Again, was it just word of mouth?
Word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. So the crews are hearing that you can sharpen these bits for them, and
And at the same time, during the summers, I worked out at Philmont Scout Ranch in a blacksmith shop out there.
Really?
I went out as a kid,
Yeah.
hiking on the trails with the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
And at that time, the ranch was like 250 square miles. It's a lot bigger than that now.
Yeah.
And we stopped at Cypress Mine, which was a mining camp. They panned for gold and had a gold mine you toured and had a blacksmith shop. And so we're sitting there watching this blacksmith work, and he asked anybody want to try it. And of course, all the other guys in my group knew what I'd done.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're pushing me up there. So I got there and hammered. And when we got down off the trail after our hiking trip, they hired me off the trail. And I had to call Mom and say, hey, I'm not coming home. You know, I'll be home this fall.
Oh, my God. So what were you doing there?
Blacksmithing.
Well, right. But what were you repairing stuff for the trail and for the mines?
No,
and
demonstrating.
Just demonstrate. Okay.
And,
okay.
and making stuff like a miner blacksmith would have made.
Got it.
Picks and spikes just to show what a blacksmith would do.
Got it. Got it. So they weren't a functional mine. Like they weren't having you repairing equipment or anything like that.
No.
But yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
That's wild. Yeah. But I mean, this blacksmith's taken me so many places.
Yeah.
It's all across the country, out of country. When I met Clifton, I mean, he basically took me under his arm and showed me pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And he'd go on do these demonstrations, all over. I mean, the farthest place, I think we went up to Canada, did one up there.
Yeah.
And I drove that time. And we got to the border, and the guard was there. And he looked in the back of the truck and saw Clifton's tools, you know.
Yeah.
He goes, what are you doing with all that junk? Of course, Clifton's starting to spout off. And, hold on, Clifton. You know Clifton. He was pretty loud mouth. And he took offense to it.
Yeah,
he was going to correct this guard. I said, we'll need trouble out of this guy. So we got to there and went up there and did a big demo up there in Canada.
Yeah.
But we went to Birmingham for the ABANA conference. We've been to St. Louis. We've been to New York a couple times. We've been all over.
Yeah.
I know. I did a workshop out in Arizona last year. They hired me to come out and show power hammer forging and make tools. And You know what Arizona looks like?
I know it's dry.
It's dry and hot too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks like a blacksmith shop. That's all I saw, because they had me doing a demo in Phoenix.
Yeah.
In a blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
Then I went to the university to a blacksmith shop and taught blacksmithing there.
Yeah.
Then to a night school and taught blacksmithing at that school.
Yeah.
And I got on an airplane, came back. So
yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, you didn't see any of the sights and sounds.
No,
You saw the blacksmith.
I saw the blacksmith shop.
Yeah. So now, I mean, you've had a whole career, and you've moved through different companies, and for the last, how many years have you worked for your company now? Is Custom Blacksmithing. I mean, and how many years has that been in play?
I opened that building in Atlanta, 1985.
Okay.
And I was in Westfield 2 years before that. Okay. I ran a building there, and before that, Mom and Dad's backyard.
Right.
I did the bulk of the jackhammer bits and all that stuff. I mean, that paid for the shop in Atlanta.
Right.
You know.
So how's your career arc? You were doing jackhammer bits. You were, going out and doing industrial.
Everything gets more complicated now. Make me think a little more.
What kind of stuff are you doing?
I'm doing a lot of railings and a lot of. I just still do industrial work. There's a forge shop over in Illinois that I do all their tongs and grab hooks and all that stuff for.
Okay.
Steve Parker worked there, and he got sick and then retired.
Got it.
And he's supposed to come over and visit here soon, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Get us back together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that YouTube video when we were forging the vise. With Clifton and all that.
Yep.
That was Steve Parker there.
Got it.
With Clifton yelling at both of us.
Yeah. So what are you, I know you're doing a ton of classes at your shop. Are you, at this stage of your life, are you just looking for opportunities basically to pass on everything that you've learned?
Well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Somebody took the time to show me.
Right.
And there's so much interest in this now. I'm taking the time to show them.
Yeah.
And show them how to do it right and safely without getting hurt.
Right.
Because this stuff is dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In fact, this weekend, I'm starting another beginner class in my shop on Saturday. And I go about 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Okay.
Thursday, I got a group of guys up there, about 10 or 15 of them. I started a blacksmith beginner class about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And they won't quit. So I keep coming with more projects for them to do.
Yeah.
So it's all fun.
Well, and I also heard you just became an honorary ABANA curriculum instructor, like certified, right?
Yeah.
And that was given to you because basically they couldn't look at the body of work that you've produced and the knowledge that you hold within yourself and say, oh, he absolutely can do this.
I think they felt sorry for me. They were like, that sick guy in a blacksmith, he had to work hard all his life. Here, we'll just give him an honorary deal. Those who can't do, they just give a title. And guess what? They give me a title.
Oh, man. So you're doing these classes. Do you charge for these classes?
Yeah.
You charge for the classes?
It's a nominal amount. I pay for the materials and all that.
Right. And you're running 10 to 15 students at a time through, and you said you guys do about 5 or 6 weeks. So it's
I'm going to start them how to draw a piece, how to draw things right, how to taper, square octagon around, how to upset, how to split, how to punch, how to make an S hook, and then how to make a fork, how to make a bottle opener, how to forge weld. Then we'll get into some tong making.
Yeah.
And then a fire poker at the end.
Yeah. Kind of uses all the stuff they just learned.
Because, basically, I want to get them to that point.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to come in and make a knife.
Yeah.
I don't mind showing them how to make a knife.
Sure.
But if you learn how to forge first, then you're not stuck making a wedge all your life.
Right.
Or the same
shape.
Learn how to move metal first.
Yeah. Well, and
we've had kids that are 10 years old.
Yeah.
And they ask, I said, well, somebody did that for me, so I'm going to do that for you.
Yeah. I mean, my
I look back on it now, I go, what were they thinking? Think beyond.
I was first introduced to blacksmithing when I was about 10 or 11. And, I went out, we lived on a farm. I went out back, had a 55-gallon drum that was cut in half. I stuck a piece of galvanized water pipe into it and just blew into it and then took my metal and beat on a rock. And it was the same thing in me. I was like, there is something.
We can do this better.
Not only can I do this better, this is amazing. Yeah. I'm going to spend a long time learning about how to do this. And, at the time, that was the early 2000s, I jumped on anvilfire.com and I'm sitting there talking to people like Larry Langdon and Grant Sarver and, just a myriad of pillars in the industry in their specializations and seeing all these tool makers. And that was really what called to me. It's like seeing them, seeing Grant Sarver use his little induction forge and he's heating the billet and he's got a big friction screw press and stamping out the bits and he's doing I don't know how many hundreds of pairs of tongs a week. And for me, it's always been that intrigue in not just knowing how to forge, but how do you forge repeatedly? How do you get consistency with something that's so volatile? It's constantly hot and changing and moving. And, I remember doing a big job. I had to, again, it goes back to that constantly evolving. I got a commission piece for a big forged sculpture, and each bar weighed about 400 pounds. And, I'm in my little 600 square foot barn. How am I going to frickin' move these things? And so I built a jib crane, just fabbed it together with some barn track and some you do what you got. And I looked at that with more satisfaction than the finished job, because it's all the problem solving that had to go into how am I going to make this was just as fulfilling and gratifying as the finished project.
The same thing. Think before you jump. And guess what? That's what we do.
Yep.
We think about how much metal it's going to take to make this section, how much it's going to take make this section, and how we're going to get this section to go where we want it to, and usually that's involved in making tools or figuring things out ahead of time.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important piece of the puzzle what is the piece of information that you've gotten early on that you've used the most throughout your career in blacksmithing? Is there some knowledge, some base theory, that was conveyed to you that you feel like for me, I would say hammer control. My grandpa would send me out back with a 4x4 and a bucket of nails and say, I don't want to see any wood when you come back. and I have used hammer, like accurate hammer control my whole life.
I had a student that he just would wail on a piece of steel and didn't really think about where he's hitting it or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was going to get a job there at Conner Prairie, and in fact, he helped work down there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I said, I got to cure him of this before he goes make a fool of me. So he came to the shop. I said, you need to come up and learn a few more things.
Yeah.
I gave him a piece of 1 inch round, 4 inches long.
Yeah.
I said, now, in a coal forge and flat tongs, make a ball. Upset this and make a ball. Yeah. So now he's trying to hold a ball with a flat jaw tongs. He spent more time chasing, but he learned how to hit a piece of metal and finesse it.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. And that's the difference between starting out making knives, I think, and learning the foundations, right?
And
learning the foundations.
How to control it.
Right. Right. When getting the experience of seeing the metal move, seeing how it moves and how it moves with different tools. And
exactly.
That's like everything.
And the different angles. I mean, between the hammers and presses like you guys build and all that. Yeah. All they do is go up and down.
Right.
It's up to you to figure out how to make the power go sideways.
Yeah. Right.
Or to spit out fodder. How to forge it.
Yeah.
What type of material you have.
Yeah.
Because there's some pretty tough materials out there.
Yeah.
And your hammer may not be up to it. But if you use a little tooling, you can make it up to it.
Yeah.
By reducing the surface area.
Right. Well, and I mean, you have a large collection of large hammers, but you probably still bounce. I mean, even forging the titanium, right? I mean, that's
some tough stuff.
Yeah. We had a customer come in.
When it cools off, you're done. It tells you when you're done.
It starts bouncing, right? The hammer's going back up, and you're like, well.
It's not going to work.
We had a customer reach out, and they said, we are trying to, they're a surgical manufacturer, And they have a extruder that extrudes platinum wire. And they use it in hip replacements basically they can outline the joint with this wire, and they can have all their tracking information on the wire, so you can get an X-ray or whatever it is and actually document and track, okay, this ball socket and all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. And they said, we melt these billets in-house, and it's a special alloy. And we're looking for some equipment to help us do this because we used to outsource it, and we're trying to bring it all back in so we have better quality control. Okay, great. So they're like, can we send you some samples? I said, absolutely not. I don't want your platinum. You guys come, bring it with you. We'll walk through our process and see if we don't have some equipment that could help you. Okay, so they walk in. I'm thinking platinum. Platinum's like gold, right? It's dense, but it's soft, right? Okay, no problem. Well, the key word I missed was platinum alloy. They walked in with these 2 bars, probably about $100,000 in material. These two 1-inch bars, or actually I think it was 1.5-inch round bars, and you could see them. They were real porous. And they said,
so they're casting.
So they're casting these raw billets, and then they have to homogenize the material. So they're forging them at about 2450. And he gave me that number. And I said, okay, great. That's a great starting point because we have a computer controlled forge. I can set it up for 2450. Great. So we got the material up to temperature. Man, I was thinking I'm going to go easy on this. I don't know how soft it's going to be. I put it in a 25-ton press. Made a dent. And I was like, I have never forged something so hard. I said, what is this alloyed with? He said, oh, it's carbide. It's a tungsten suspension, tungsten carbide suspension in platinum, some version of that. And I'm like, guys, okay, so we're using 120 ton to forge 1.5-inch round. And it's taken me like 7 heats because as soon as, like you just said, that material gets below, not only does it stop moving, it starts fracturing because it's porous. So we have this like 100-degree window where it's out of the forge and then right back into the forge. And I've never done it. That's probably the hardest material I've ever forged. I mean, it was like forging a rock, and that was at 2,400 degrees. So anyway, what was if you had to give yourself a specialization, a specialty, something that you have really gotten excellent at, you feel like your prowess, is it would you say it's in power hammer forging? Is that kind of your specialty?
That's pretty much my specialty.
Yeah.
But as far as the hand forging goes, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was forging one day and it just clicked.
Yeah.
I said, I'm doing this right.
Yeah.
And it just felt like every hammer blow was going in the right spot.
Sure.
And everything was working the way I wanted to work.
Yep. And it only took 40 years.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. But
yeah,
out of what clicked in my head, and said, I think you made it.
I think I understand what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm still learning.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's fueling the passion.
Clifton always said, well, you can't call yourself a blacksmith until you got 75 years experience. I might have a chance, I start young enough.
Yeah.
But, there's so much to learn with this. It's just endless.
Yeah.
I went to ABANA conference here a few years ago out there at Johnstown, when they had that Iron Art Festival, and I walked through there, and somebody came up, well, Kurt, what are you doing here? Don't you know? I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I'm here for the same reason you are.
Yep.
So I said, we're never done learning.
Yeah. Well, and that place is
full of history,
My gosh. Was Johnstown involved with Bethlehem? Was that Bethlehem in Johnstown? I can't remember.
Carnegie was behind a lot of that,
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't go through the town deal, but I think I heard somebody say that, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah. I forget some of the we were down there visiting.
Old steel town. And there's still active there's still active steel mills there.
Yeah.
I think they still got 2 in operation.
Okay.
If you go there and camp out on the grounds, there's a train that goes by every 15 minutes, and you'll enjoy living in that town like the townspeople do because they get to hear a train every 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh!
That means everything's still going. They're making money.
Yeah, yeah.
It was Bethlehem Steel.
It was Bethlehem Steel. Okay, because we have a pair of tongs out of Bethlehem's blacksmith shop, out of their repair shop.
Oh yeah,
and they're down to 250-pound pair of tongs.
Yeah, I had a pair from Fountaintown like that.
Okay,
they're up at Ted's museum now.
Yeah, yeah. So are you still running the hammers regularly, or are you finding you're doing a lot more of the classes? And
no, I'm still working every day.
Yeah. Do you
I mean, the classes, I just put that on when they bug me enough and I start another one,
Yeah.
Because I got enough going on without it.
Right. Or you said you're still doing industrial work. Is there still enough industry in the surrounding area, or are you getting jobs from further and further away?
Further away. I
Really?
mean, you still got stuff from north of Chicago and Gary and all that. And then I've got the Ford shop over in Illinois I'm doing work for.
Right.
And if I went out and pushed, I could get more.
Right. You got a lot for a one-man shop.
Yeah.
A lot of work coming through the door.
And, at this age, it's kind of nice to take time to go fishing, too,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you were out traveling through hiking the mountain trail, or
out at Phil My Scout Ranch.
Okay. So is that something you do regularly? Do you like to get out and get in the mountains and?
Yeah, I still like to get out and backpack. I still like getting in the woods and going fishing and hanging out, and the world's a great place.
Yeah, a lot to see.
A lot to see.
Yeah,
a lot to learn.
A lot to learn. Endless amounts to learn. Absolutely endless. So. We've got you for a couple hours today, and we're gonna do some power hammer safety videos. It sounds like something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah.
I came to your last meeting and I saw a lot of mistakes. And, and
got a lot of newbies.
I said somebody's gonna get hurt here.
Yeah.
And like I said, those hammers and presses just go up and down.
Right.
And when you start putting tools in there, make things go sideways. And all that, you better watch out because you can spit a tool out there pretty quick. And get somebody hurt.
Yeah.
And we don't want that.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So
I know I don't want to get hurt either.
I don't want to get hurt. No. Well, and I think like Corbin just experienced, I think probably the worst injury I've had is setting my hand on something that I made hot by accident. We were heating that the big cross up in the vise, and he stuck his hand on the vise.
He wasn't thinking.
Nope. Yeah. That's why you always tap. You tap before you touch in a blacksmith shop.
You just feel it back your hand.
Oh, yeah?
You feel the heat come off.
Yeah.
Because you got calluses on the palm of your hand.
Yeah. Well, you do. I'm getting soft over here working in the office. And
we'll get to work.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, is there anything else? Do you have any local resources within Indiana that you know of? Obviously, we've got the Cole IBA here, but there's IBA classes all over Indiana. Resources for people.
Indiana blacksmiths have satellite groups all over the state.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best groups in the country. Personally, the IBA's been.
Sofa's good. They're all good. They're all good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you're at. As long as a bunch of good guys get together with a hammer.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You learn from each other.
Right. Any other resources, though, that you feel passionately are a good option for people?
We're pretty lucky now with all those sources for books we have.
Yeah.
When I started, there was only about 2 books out.
Yeah. Like Alex Beeler's Art of Blacksmithing.
And The Edge of the Anvil by Jack Andrews.
Yep.
And there's a few old books, that were printed years ago. But
right. Yep.
And with YouTube and all the stuff going on with technology. Yeah. People have quite an advantage now.
Yeah. Well, and I think
I know when I was young, going to meetings and stuff like that, and watching guys work. I go home at night and stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, reproducing everything I saw that day.
Really?
Just to drive it home.
Yeah. Was that out of pure passion and interest?
Pure passion and interest and wanting to learn.
Yep. That's pretty amazing. I don't know a lot of people that are that committed just to go all in on the thing that interests them to that degree.
Look at Corbin.
Oh, he's a great example.
He's a prime example.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier about, blacksmithing, it's worse than dope.
Yeah.
because you do this stuff and you got to do something better. You want to go farther and farther and farther.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
When you can see inside that metal, and it just bang.
Yeah.
And it's something you can't touch it with your hands.
Yeah.
But you can mold it like clay with a hammer and
right.
tooling.
Right. Something really magical about that.
It sure is.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Well, and I used to talk a lot about and think about it like the perspective of, there's very few trades where what you build outlives you, right? Wood, generally, maybe it does, but the likelihood that the railings and the gates and the tools,
it's all going to outlive us.
right? Yeah, yeah, that's pretty important. I mean, talking about the heritage and the lineage of passing down this knowledge. And I think we have an opportunity now with YouTube and with the internet and with all the publication options.
Forge and Fire, we wouldn't be where we are with your company or...
Yeah.
I mean,
just the interest level.
It just let the whole world know that, hey, we're still here.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what it takes to make it.
Right.
They're actually seeing a hot metal. They're actually seeing this and say, boy, those guys work hard.
Yeah.
And they're willing to pay for it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they're feeling that draw within themselves. I want to do that. Yeah. I want to push myself there. Mm-hmm. I think
I want a piece of this in my house.
Yeah. Right. Something important. Something meaningful. Well, sir, I think I am just super excited to have you here today. I feel very blessed and honored to have you so local to us and able to come in.
Well, I met you guys, a few years ago and all that. And I mean, it's just great to see you guys grow.
Yeah. It's great to be a part of it.
And see what you're doing now and promoting.
Yeah.
And this is a good opportunity to pass some more on, and
absolutely. Yeah, we need that.
Show the safety part of it and show how to, We'll get that little hammer going down there. One of these days we'll do a tooling workshop on it with that and just get things moving forward.
Yeah.
To let people know it's still here.
Oh, yeah.
And they can carry it on from after I'm gone.
Yep. Yep. But we got to get it all out of you. So we're just gonna have you here constantly videotaping everything.
We'll do more and more. And at my shop too. So.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I want to be over there. Are you able to get the steam hammer up and running right now? Or are you?
It's pretty cold.
Well, maybe not this week.
The air compressor's outside.
Yeah.
It's a diesel screw, so I'm not gonna try.
Yeah. What's the CFM that's a 600 pound? Is that a Bement?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bement Pond.
Yeah.
It's a 375 screw compressor.
Okay, 375 CFM.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the first thing with a steam hammer is you dig a hole. I remember you telling me
12-foot hole underneath that.
You know how many pounds that is of concrete?
Well, it's a big U shape.
Okay.
Because the center has wood on.
Okay.
On it,
Okay, so it's kind of like a cradle, right?
Yeah.
For the wood foundation.
That way, the saw block and a hammer.
Yeah.
The hammer would break itself in half.
Got it.
There's 4 foot of wood underneath that saw block, so it can have some give.
Got it.
And then the hammer bolted on 2 big 12 by 12 timbers, so it can flex coming up too.
Got it. Wow. And so it's just sitting there on its own weight, basically.
It's bolted to the concrete.
To the concrete. Okay. Yeah. So the hammer frame is bolted to the concrete U, but that
hammer block
is sitting on the cribbing underneath.
Yeah. And then you got wooden wedges holding it in place.
Right. Align it. Yeah. What's the last big job you did on that hammer? That you had to break it out because whatever you were forging needed the oomph.
Mostly tooling for the shop,
Really?
Recently.
Yeah.
We did some work last summer on some big forks for U.S. Steel up there.
Okay. Now a fork, what do you mean by a fork? Is that something they grab ladles or
it's like a pickle fork.
Okay.
But they're driving, with a gear off a 12-inch shaft or something.
Oh,
big stuff, big size.
Yeah, what diameter are you forging that out of?
It's 4-inch.
4-inch, yeah.
And then 2-inch tapered wedge.
Yeah.
I got pictures of it someplace.
Yeah,
up there.
I'd love to see some pictures of it. Yeah. Right on.
But we fire it up every now and then, make a tool for the shop or whatever.
Like a post vise.
Yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah. Just a quick little.
But it's power, a lot of power there.
Yeah.
But it costs more to run than what the 250 or the 500.
Oh, yeah.
The 500 little giant
Yeah.
cost, you know.
Well, yeah, I forgot you had a 500. So what's the story on that? Because when we visited your shop with Will Stelter that was years ago now, you had mentioned that was like a bomb forging hammer.
Yeah, they noticed a 500-pound bomb on the hammer.
Okay.
For the war.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa, with a drop forge, they traded a board drop hammer to Purdue had it.
Okay.
Just sitting in their inventory.
Yeah.
And with the metallurgy department up there,
yeah,
they would need drop hammers. So Grandpa gave them drop hammers and got this in return and put it in the blacksmith shop, and that's what they make tongs on.
That is a nice
convert
hammer.
over.
Yeah.
It runs about as fast as a 25-pound gold giant. You know. But it's good for swaging, good for a lot of that.
Probably really good for drawing tong reins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
wow.
cool.
Wow. That's crazy. 500 pounds swinging around a 25-pound little
right in front
of your face. Yeah, I'll have to get over there and try that one out. That's probably the biggest hammer. I mean, we've got the Naze L3B here, but that's only 260 pounds. That's yeah.
We'll play that one of these days.
Yeah,
too.
that sounds good. That sounds very good. Wonderful. Well, sir, I'm excited to get you out in the shop, get some forges fired up, get this place warmed up a little bit. If someone's interested in coming and taking one of your classes,
just give me a call.
Just give you a call. Custom Blacksmithing. What's your phone number?
It's 765-292-2745.
Perfect. We'll put it on the page, and hopefully
right there in beautiful Atlanta, Indiana.
Yes, absolutely. Right in the middle of all the cornfields.
Yeah,
some beautiful, beautiful cornfields.
Northern Hamilton County.
That's the good stuff. All right, sir. And you don't have the giant anvil on the top of your building anymore. That used to be the...
No, we had to fix the roof, and we took it down.
Yeah.
And while I was down, somebody came by offering me stupid money for it, so it became theirs.
Got it. Are you going to build another one?
I thought about maybe a giant arm with a hammer.
Okay. So look for maybe the giant arm with the hammer.
It may be a few years till we get that done, but...
Yeah.
Not as motivated as I used to be.
Sure. Well, the work's coming in anyway, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, absolutely a pleasure to have you here. And if you want to learn more about Kurt and all the incredible stuff that he's doing, the classes you're offering, reach out to him, give him a phone call. And his company's name's Custom Blacksmithing. Do you have a website?
No. Just on Facebook.
Just Facebook. Okay. Check him out on Facebook.
Or come over here. We're over here with the IBA group.
Yep.
Every time. So, yeah, it's...
Other than December, which we didn't have a meeting, and that I guess I didn't tell him.
Yeah, you did.
At your shop.
At my shop.
I saw your Facebook post that said, we're over here at Cole. And I was like, oh, no.
The guys got over here.
Yeah.
They said, it's not going on. I said, just move it up here.
Yeah.
I'm here working anyway, so come on up to the shop.
Keep me company.
So they fired all the forges up.
Oh, that's great.
Had a good day.
Yeah. Awesome. Fantastic. All right, sir. We'll be visiting your shop soon for a tour.
Well, thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, of course. Been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye. The intro and outro are always the worst parts of those. All right.
You've done this before, so.
I have done this before. Yes, I have.